Hello and welcome to the space between ideas. I'm Blaine Gates. Where are we? So it's day number 64. Day 64. Wow. And we're still moving. We're still pushing. We're still learning. We're still growing. We're still going. So day 64, it's all about what? Where are we? So, in the past we were talking about a checklist inside of a checklist inside of a checklist. Now, do you remember the movie Inception where when they got to the dream inside of the dream inside of the dream, all right? So they were like in the third dream and they get into this guy's base and then they have to plant this idea. So they have to like open up this safe and put this idea in the safe so that he thinks that it's his own idea. And then he wakes up from one dream and then he wakes up from the other dream and wow, where does the movie go from there? Anyways, so we have to plant this idea inside of the safe. Now, what does that mean for us? Okay, so now the interesting thing is what? All right, so the original dream, like the first layer was like we need to figure out the impact. We need to select like from a broad range of choices, we need to make a decision about one. And we want to make a decision with the most impact. And what I was expressing was that, all right, so if we combine, so after you frame the context, you need to create these scenarios. We're going to choose from one of the scenarios. Now, as you build scenarios, it's important to like know every aspect of these scenarios. So actually, you could go to the state assumptions checklist and start to do some research about elements of the decision. And in general, we've been going with the idea that a decision moving forward has something to do with other entities, whether it be within a team, choosing people on a team to do a project, whether it be working with a specific provider, or whether it be to go after a certain type of customer. Now, of course, there may be other types of decisions that you need to make, but those are the ones that we're working with because we want to work with a dream inside of a dream, a checklist inside of a checklist. So from the state impact checklist, when we decided to build scenarios, we decided to build these scenarios using state teamwork, which means that we want to use an Excel spreadsheet to begin to list the different entities. And then with the different entities, we want to know their desired outcomes, their desired reuses over time. We want to know how we are going to support each other in this project. We want to know other actions that they will engage in, other actions that we will engage on to fulfill this operational agreement. We want to know the various personas that will be working, and we need to know each of the work sets of these personas. All right, so now we have two different entities, for example, for a provider. And which one do we choose? So then we go, I guess we're kind of going horizontal, so it's still the dream within the dream, the checklist within the checklist. So at the top we have state impact, and then we're going state teamwork, and then over state drive. So we have two checklists in the second layer. And we were talking about what does it mean to be slightly less successful and slightly less motivated. All right, so we called that recollecting. And we said some providers might be recollecting. They may not be as successful as we'd like, or maybe they're not as diligent as we'd like, or maybe they are. Maybe that's the kind of people that you want to provide things. Maybe that's the kind of people from whom you would like to have things provided. And but maybe not. But then what if it's like your cousin's business or your brother's business and you kind of like have to work with him? Well, then we got to figure out a way to get him to be more diligent. And in the long term, we also want to figure out how to get a way to get him more successful. And the way that we were thinking about motivation was using the state purposes checklist. So that was the dream inside of the dream inside of the dream. That was the third level. All right. Now, so far, we talked about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We talked about 5 different types of motivation, these purposes that people have within them. So some people, like, if you offer them some medical insurance, then they're going to maintain or enhance their wellness. Isn't that lovely? Maybe you have some kind of accreditation system, or you offer them the opportunity to get some kind of certification, some higher education. Maybe you offer them some way to achieve more recognition in some way. All right? Maybe you want to figure out how to help them to enhance their reputation. You want them to gain credibility with customers or colleagues. All right? Maybe you want to figure out a way. So, for example, your salesmen, maybe they'd like to deploy new methods. Maybe you want to make sure that your employees understand how they can thrive within your organization. Deploying some kind of knowledge to your employees and giving them methods and skills in order for them to achieve greater and greater heights could be motivating. All right, how about participating in some kind of service club? How about building appropriate interpersonal relationships with customers, colleagues, and suppliers? All right, so those are people who like to ally with or create relationships or activities. Okay, so allow them to build appropriate interpersonal relationships with customers, with colleagues, and with suppliers. Let them get involved. You know, if you have a guy who's just doing data entry and he's a really social guy, maybe you got to mix it up and put him in a position where he gets to meet people and he will be able to serve your operation better. All right, so now we move into the next section. Okay, so those are all these people who like to work with potential. They like to see their potential grow. They're motivated with the opportunity to develop potential. Often these are also the people that come up with ideas because they have such a strong desire to develop their potential, to shape potential. Then they're always thinking of ways to get involved and to work with different activities, different relationships that can help them to develop their potential. All right, so now where do we go from here? It seems like we spend most of our time just reviewing these ideas. And I hope that each time that we review them, that it becomes clearer and clearer in your mind. And that each time when you review these ideas, you're also able to think about your own organization. And that you're starting to pinpoint people in your organization, that you're pulling out your Excel spreadsheet and you're saying, yeah, here's a provider who's motivated to do this. And because they're motivated with this purpose, then let's work with them in this way. Let's adjust the way that we communicate with them. Let's adjust the way that we provide opportunities for them. Let's figure out how we can work within the framework of their purposes, of their motivation, to try to get better outcomes out of this service relationship. Maybe you have a team and there's a guy on your team and you're like, I don't know, I'm not sure how to motivate this guy. Well, let's on your Excel spreadsheet where you've written out the outcomes and the reuses and the way that we support each other and the other things that that person needs to do. And then look, well, what are the things that they're doing? What are the things that this endeavor, that this project is asking of them? And then pinpoint, like, well, what are their purposes? And is there a way to adjust the project so that we can figure out how to place within that project a piece of work, a persona, some type of responsibility that that person will be able to thrive at. Next, so let's go back to this. So remember the inception. We got the, we undo the lock of the safe, and we put this idea inside. So what is inside of that little thing, right? What is inside? What of all these checklists? And we're in a dream inside of a dream inside of a dream. And now where are we? What is the very center of the center of the center? And then put that little thing in there. It's form agendas, okay? Form agendas. We're back to what? So if we look at the endeavor elements, what's the key? Like what is going to glue together the outcomes which you are trying to achieve with the potential that you're trying to shape? So you have this potential, you have all of these resources and motivations, and you have these interactions, and then you put them all together. All right, so it's like we have some wires, and we have some electricity, and we have some glass, and we have a battery. All right, so we put it all together into what? We have hardware. All right, we have a computer, but we need software. So in order for hardware, in order to achieve the outcome which we want to achieve, for the computer to work properly, we need the hardware. So that's like shaping the potential. That's the actual resources. Those are the actual people. And that's the motivation, the energy, the electricity. Okay, we plug in the computer, we put in some software. Wait, that's not the software. The software is in the middle. All right, so depending on what type of software you have, you're going to get some kind of outcome. So the software is actually what? That's the plan. Software is literally a plan. So there's some software, and I'm going to put some information in there, and there's going to pop out some other thing that I want. I want the outcome. All right, so when I'm typing in a document, what do I want? I want to be able to print that document. So I need a computer and a software that will enable me to type out words and then push print, and then that document comes out. All right, maybe it's a contract, and then we want to sign that contract. So I need the hardware, I also need the software. So the people, your shaping potential, all the things that we talked about so far, that's your hardware. And now we're in the center, which is what? So this is forming agendas. Once again, it is doing the research. So we have to shape our assumptions. All right, so the assumptions in software, it's like the yes or no, right? So you have the yes or no's, all of the yes or no's, and then you have to line them up in a specific way to produce certain outcomes, to allow the certain flow to happen, all right, to create certain scenarios, all right? Now, eventually, when you have all those scenarios, then you're going to choose a plan. So we're back to what? So state impact, we got to the concept of build scenarios. And then we went to state teamwork, and we started building scenarios. And then we went to state drive, we continued to build scenarios. And now we're in state motivation to give us more information about the various scenarios. And within these motivations, we've now reached the form agendas aspect of motivations, which tells us about building scenarios. All right, so just like the endeavor element with the first 5 motivations was motivated to shape potential, this is motivation to form agendas. All right, so why are people motivated to form agendas in the first place? Why are we motivated to build scenarios in the first place? Like, what's the whole point? Like, obviously, we're going to build scenarios because we want to choose a plan. And we need a plan so that we can achieve those outcomes. Now, the thing is that achieving those outcomes is not guaranteed. There is absolutely no guarantee that the potential that you have is enough and that the plan is good enough to achieve that outcome. Even if you have the resources and the interactions and the motivations and everything's perfect, you still might not have the perfect plan. And so this is the opportunity. These checklists give you the opportunity to take the time to think and make sure that you've analyzed as many aspects as you can, as much as you can, in order to feel like I have the insight, I have enough knowledge, I'm close enough to mail that letter, remember from the other video. And I know to what degree I have insight. So if there is a failure, I feel relatively certain that I understood how much insight I had. All right. Now, as you form agendas, like, who is the guy that you want on your team that's helping you to form agendas? Who do you want on your team to help you to make that plan? This guy. What? Me? You want me on your team because I will slow you down. All right? I will slow you down. So when you're like, okay, just forget it. Let's just do it. No. Let's not forget it. Let's not just do it. Let's apply some checklists. Let's think through the problem. Let's discuss it. Let's think again. All right? There's no reason. I mean, if there's no reason to make the decision right now, then let's slow it down. Let's make sure we've talked about it. Let's make sure we understand the impact of various scenarios and why. All right? So as you make plans, you will begin to gain goals. Gain goals. So if you're a kind of person that I want goals. I really enjoy the process of making goals. All right. So people like, now The thing is, it's very difficult to achieve goals unless you have a step-by-step plan. And so the same people who like to gain goals are the same people which will help you to create a plan. And I love working toward goals. I speak Chinese fluently. I'm speaking intermediate level Russian. I've traveled all around the world. I'm building a YouTube channel. I'm doing all of these things. I'm thinking about how to create software. I'm helping a number of people, 15 different people, to discuss the endeavors, to discuss their projects, to help them to gain goals, to help them to gain what? To gain purpose. All right? So gaining a goal, it's like a target. I want that. A gain of purpose is like, I want to feel like there's some greater purpose. It's not just a goal. It's not just shooting a target, but it's building towards something. It's creating meaning in this life. I want to gain purpose. Well, if you want to gain purpose, then we need to take some time and build a plan. We need to form an agenda. All right. And lastly, people who want a sense of direction. It's going to be much easier to measure your progress toward achieving your purposes if you feel like you have a sense of direction. All right, because in the planning process, there will be milestones. There will be a way to record your progress, to write down the steps, to think about the steps, to achieve those steps. All right. So today, that thing inside of the thing, inside of the thing, inside of that little safe, and you have the little combination and you open it, and what's inside? The software. It's the plan. And then, is it the one plan? No, it's a bunch of different scenarios, right? We're still building scenarios. We're still building scenarios. And we have to keep building those scenarios until we are relatively sure we have found the answer. Or the time comes when you just have to make that decision because you don't have any more time to think about it. Day 64, space between ideas. I'm Blank Gates.